Everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next session, which has got some stellar folks on for you today as you get a better understanding of the DoD SBIR programs available throughout the ecosystem. And so it is my pleasure to introduce Tyler Temple, who's the Director for the Defense Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Programs. For those of you not familiar, that's what we refer to as SBIR in the land of acronyms. And he's at their program office with the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. And in his role, he leads the development and maintenance of the Defense Small Business Innovation Portal, DSIP, and the development of policies and procedures for small business innovation research and tech transfer due diligence across the components. And he also supports the SBIR program office in various other capacities. So real quick, just a little bit of background because Tyler's a really smart guy. I think I have to share some of this, right? So previously, Mr. Temple served as the program manager for the Army the technology transfer program, where he was responsible for successful execution of the Army STTR budget, topic calls, proposed selections, award monitoring, and outreach initiatives. So he's got much more background and years of service, but without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Tyler and the fabulous team joining him today. Thank you, Tyler.
All right. Thank you, Anna, for the intro.
Maybe we can move the mic a little closer, Tyler.
I'm muted. I'm muted.
There we go.
All right. Can you hear us?
Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Sorry about the feedback. As Anna said, I'm the deputy director. So I work for Gina Sims, who's director of Defense SBIR. We're going to do this where we introduce ourselves, go over our program charts, quickly and introduce ourselves prior to that. So I will start out, and just one quick adjustment that we have Mr. Zach Vaughn here from the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, as Dr. Trenchard Lawrence is still en route. So with that, I'll go to the next chart, which is the 14 critical technology areas. So OSD has laid out the Research and Engineering Undersecretary 14 critical priority tech areas that great importance towards our national security. You can see here they're quite broad and cover pretty much every single area of research you could ever think of. Things like space technology, trusted AI, advanced materials, directed energy, all of those types of things are what we need to focus on to ensure that we maintain technological overmatch with our adversaries. And so this is just to give you kind of an idea of what we look at from an overall DoD perspective. But then the components themselves also have research priorities that they can explain during their briefing. Next slide, please. So currently within the OSD program, within the defense program, I want to delineate this. Within the Defense SBIR program office, there are 12 individual SBIR programs through the services and other DoD components. And those programs you will hear from Army, Navy, Air Force, DCSA, and MDA. What I'm talking about in this slide is OSD, out of my office as well, also executes programs on behalf of offices that are aligned and in the chain of command of the Office of the Secretary of Defense, but do not have SBIR program authority to actually execute awards, which is why they go through our office. And so those offices include the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, CDAO, some of the critical tech areas such as quantum and future G, and then things like the Basic Research Office, the Defense Human Resources Activity, and Strategic Capabilities Office. Next slide, please. Other organizations that have expressed interest, and one you will hear about from today, is the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency. They have some very unique things that Mr. Vaughn will go through that are some unique problem sets that we typically have maybe thought of adjacently, but not directly. And then we have a couple other offices, such as the Joint Hypersonics Transition Office and DIU, that we're working with to possibly execute some topics for on their behalf in FY25. Next slide, please. So the main thing I want to talk about, aside from how to get in contact with us, is what we're doing from a defense-wide perspective in FY25 to include the changes we've made in 24 and early 25 and our initiatives that will continue through 25. So as of this fiscal year, so 1 October 2024, we've actually standardized the solicitation schedule for the pre-release for all of our BAA topics. So the first Wednesday of every month, you can visit the Defense Cyber Innovation Portal, DCIP, and that will have all of the topics on that pre-release on that first Wednesday, 12 months out of this fiscal year. And so that gets away from us having a kind of like a random, I guess, quarterly cycle with off-topic monthly, bi-weekly cycles that we were traditionally moving with previously. And so that's really to help standardize when to come to DCIP. Also, we reduced the solicitation instructions. So the DoD preface, I believe, was around 50 pages, and we've gotten it down to about 25. So we're trying to reduce all the instructions so that they're clear and concise and fulfill all the requirements by law, but it's not so burdensome that you get a headache before you even start to write your proposal. And then lastly, the automation of a foreign disclosure form, and that is part of the due diligence process that was enacted in the 2022 Extension Act for Cyber. And so in 25, we still want to continue to reduce those barriers to entry. And so we're looking at things as, contracting awards, contracting timelines, just overall a campaign of explaining Cyber and the pathways to get into Cyber or pathways that are adjacent to Cyber that would still benefit a small business. And increased collaboration across the department. As you saw, we're looking to bring in 4 more organizations to execute awards. And then finally, if you're unaware, the Cyber authorization, that the law that gives us our authority to execute this program actually sunsets on September 30th of 25. So we are working hard with all the other DoD components to ensure we have the data and the success stories and the push to get this reauthorized. It is the main push comes through the Small Business Administration, but since DoD has such a large portfolio, we do have some major influence on that reauthorization as well. So lastly, the next slide is just our social media. If you want to see posts about success stories or solicitation or events we'll be at, I highly encourage you to follow our LinkedIn. I encourage you to follow all our socials, but we just started Instagram as well to try and reach out to different generations, different forms of social media to ensure that we have the widest dissemination of our information. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Matt Willis, who is the director for Army Cyber, as well as X-Tech and other prize competitions.
All right. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks again for everyone for being here this morning. I think we have a slide, but we don't really need it. So within the Army, I think that I certainly speak on behalf of all the DoD in terms of we really see the SBIR and STTR program as a mechanism to catalyze economic growth in small businesses across the country, while also supporting the critical missions that we have within our services. So I'd say to distinguish the Army from some of the other components, one of the things we really focus on is dual use technologies. So that's technologies that certainly have applications in the Army, but also have a commercial sector application. We're also really hyper-focused on transition. So, we're working directly with our program offices, our customers, to shape projects and topics before they're released. So not only do we have a customer identified, but we also have a milestone transition strategy. So what does that mean for you as a small business? That means that before you even apply to a project or get an award for a project, we already have a known customer with a known transition timeline that's waiting for that capability potentially with funding. And so that's, I think, really what the objectives of our programs are, right? Is to identify innovation that's happening in the private sector that applies to Army needs or service needs, and then has that ability to actually transition and support a larger program. The other thing I'd say is, to speak to Tyler's points and, some of the challenges that we have across the program is we're trying to increase speed, absolutely, make it easier to understand what our challenges are, and really facilitate bringing in new innovative businesses, into the Army, increasing the defense industrial base, and really supporting Army needs and our soldiers. So I think that's a good overview. I'll pass it on to, well, I don't want to take your thunder.
Sure. So we'll pass it to Brian Shipley, Director of Navy Sitter Programs.
Hi, Brian Shipley, Director of Navy Sitter Programs. So I really appreciate the way you described the program, because I think that it's all of that for the Navy as well. And the Navy's program is managed out of my office, but it's aligned to our 8 system commands that participate in the programs. And that gives us a unique opportunity, as Matt was describing with the Army, where the topics that are developed in the program can be aligned to the naval needs that we have with dual use potential, just as Army does it. Because I think that's an important component to the success of the program, in that you're working toward meeting a naval need, but you're also aligned to dual use opportunities that hopefully you can leverage to get to phase 3 even more easily. So the Navy in its 8 system commands has responsibility for acquisition, modernization, and sustainment activities across a whole host of needs and opportunities. And those opportunities are reflected in all of our topics. And those topics are aligned to sponsoring organizations that then have the champions engaged to champion the projects phase 1 and phase 2 to phase 3s, and are also aligned to program offices that have the resources then to fund phase 3 transition. And that's really what is the most important value added, I think, of the Navy, is that we have that program alignment from the very beginning. When you get a phase 1 or a direct to phase 2 award, you're aligned with a Navy customer immediately. That topic was always aligned to the person who actually has the need, and they're working with you from the very beginning on the opportunity to get it to phase 3, because they want to see you be successful. At Navy, we're going to award usually 3 phase 1 awards, or a couple of direct to phase 2 awards, and then those companies that have been awarded against the topic are working with the government customer to get to the next stage of the process. At Navy, we also offer 4 transition programs that we make available to you in phase 2 to help you to transition from phase 2 to phase 3. And it's important that you take advantage of those programs, because those programs are all designed to meet you where you are in the part of the process, in the development part of the process, to get you over the hurdles, whether it's identifying funding opportunities with your customer, if it's developing transition materials, if it's helping you with business processes. Those consultants in those programs work with you directly. It's not a broad brush approach. It's specific to your needs and helping you get to phase 3 transition. So I think those are the primary differentiators for the Navy, and welcome any questions.
All right, thank you, Brian. I'm now going to jump to Dan Carroll, who is Veterans Division Chief at AvWorks and Director of the Air Force Sitter Programs.
Hey, thank you, Tyler. Hey, this is Daniel Carroll here. I'm the Director of the Department of the Air Force SBIR STTR program. One thing which is unique in the Department of the Air Force is that we're covering 2 services, both the United States Air Force and also the United States Space Force. Similar to other team members here, we definitely have user focus, where we're looking at our specific topic and we're using that 3 times a year. We're using the OSD solicitation where to find items that are need for our built-in Air Force customers from either the Space Force or the Air Force. Also, 3 times a year, we're looking out for open topics. We're looking at for industry, what they're providing can be their disruptive technology that can be used by the Air Force or Space Force. So we have a combination between those 6 different solicitations, looking at both the SBIR phase 1s, STTR phase 1s, and also SBIR's direct to phase 2s. What is unique within the Air Force for Space Force and Air Force is that we also have opportunity for TAC buy and strap buy. That's a follow-on funding opportunities, matching funding for after you've received a phase 2 and the customer can sponsor you to be competitive for a follow-on phase 2 effort. For the strap buy, that can be up to additional $15 million of SBIR funding over 4 years. Again, as mentioned, my Navy and Army counterparts said we do want to focus on what the user needs for going from the feasibility study in phase 1 to the prototype in phase 2 to transition for phase 3. So we help through our program executive offices and our major commands through the Air Force and Space Force. So I'll turn it back over to Tyler. I'll stand by for any questions on the Air Force SBIR STTR program. Thank you.
Stan, I'm now turning it over to Mr. Zach Vaughn, the Chief of the Office of Research and Innovation from Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency.
Thank you, Tyler. Good morning, everyone. So unlike the presentations you just received, DCSA is a brand new agency and our program for SBIR is emergent. We're building it currently. So we felt it best this morning to expose you to how DCSA came about, who DCSA is, and that'll help you to understand as we get into our research objectives and our innovation ambitions, why they are what they are. And so without further ado, on slide 2, you'll see that we came about in 2019 due to Executive Order 13869 in April, and by October, we had begun the process of transferring in major activities to create DCSA. And those were obviously the DSS, Defense Security Service, was the backbone of the organization. We transferred in the National Background Investigation Bureau and the DoD Combined Adjudicative Facility, or Consolidated Adjudicative Facility, rather. And then the following 2 years, we transferred more capability in from DMDC, OPM, DIA, and others. And that's actually how I became a member of DCSA. I was actually a career DIA employee at the time. So we brought all of this together, quite an amazing undertaking. As you look at the top of the slide, 5,000 employees, 10,000 contract employees, 167 locations across America, roughly $3 billion dollars of budget, and 38 major IT systems. Next slide. To create the largest purpose-built security agency in the federal service, bringing together all these disparate activities under one umbrella. And there we see our mission as being the mission of trust. So our business is trust. And we have 4 core missions. They are personal security, industrial security, counterintelligence, and security training, and then 1 integrating activity, which is the Field Operations Directorate. And so as you look at those missions, the personal security mission vets and establishes trust in American federal and contract workforce. Industrial security does the same thing with industry and focused on the national industrial base and clear facilities. Counterintelligence insider threat, obviously there to identify, to secure trust and identify foreign and insider threats. And security training has the mission to provide training and credentialing for all of America's security professionals. And so the Field Operations Directorate is there's 167 locations and 4 consolidated regional headquarters that ensure all of this comes together for each of our customer bases. Now, with that being said, if you flip to the next slide, that kind of helps understand why we have the mission objectives that we have for research and innovation. We really break these things into 2 portfolios, one being integrated data, where you see things like the ideal of having Voltus data visible, accessible, and understandable, linked, trusted, interoperable, and secure. to creating a common data layer to create the ability to link to all these disparate data sets that we had from the previous organizations and tie it all together for a greater ability to do data analytics and predictive analytics for the future. And so we have a lot of objectives there for AI and quantum when that is able. And then the other side of the house on the last slide is that which orients around human behavior, looking at not only how you can determine risk associated with human behavior, but also the psychophysiological confluence where actually behavior is measurable even through biofeedback. And so we look at biosystems, data analytics, natural linguistics processing. There are some things there that we're interested in terms of looking at linguistic patterns analysis to determine deception and things like that. And then traceable or tactical edge AI, rather, to where we can enable the investigators of the future with wearable technology that has AI at the tactical edge that enables them to have more robust and different data than they've ever had before to be more effective in the investigation. And so I recognize that the services have some of those efforts underway now, and we're interested in partnering where we can. So any questions? That's all I had.
All right, so we'll definitely have a time for Q&A afterwards. And so I want to lastly give us to Candace Wright, who is the Missile Defense Agency program manager for SBIR program there.
Hi, good morning. So a lot of folks aren't very familiar with MDA, which I'm actually starting to realize pretty quickly. We're not as big of a component as Army, Navy, Air Force, and the others. But MDA's mission is to develop a multi-layered missile defense system. Our end users are the services, Army, Navy, Air Force, and we're also partnering with Space Force and others. And so most of our technologies, while they do some transition into our programs of record, a lot of the technologies that we're investing in actually transition to one of the other components, or they partner with an outside organization, some of the larger primes, and then do kind of a feedback loop into an MDA system of record. And so my program covers over 15 different component areas across the different assets at MDA. We have on the screen here, this is where our topics come from. And so we've got 5 different categories. And if you tie these back, they actually trace to the 14 critical technologies of OUSD R&E. The Innovation Science and Technology Directorate that I am housed within for these SBIR and SBIR programs are also aligned to these 5 areas. And so each of these technology areas have technological SMEs that are housed within each of the different 15 programs to provide topics in these particular areas to my program office for the purpose of developing phase 1, phase 2s, and transitioning to phase 3. At MDA, we don't have the big programs like some of our counterparts, but what we do provide is assistance in working with you at your phase 2 kickoff, in which I actually have agency technology SMEs that will sit in those meetings with you, work very closely with your TPOCs, work with the program offices to start helping you fully develop that transition path and plan. We have been partnering very closely with the other SBIR program offices as well as the primes to identify where our technologies overlap, to start beginning those conversations early so that way we can help identify where your technology will go in the event it does not transition into one of the programs. But other than that, I think I have another slide that just tells you how to get a hold of us. I don't want to take up too much time. I'm sure we've got some amazing questions. But please feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you, guide you. And if MDA isn't the right spot, we'll also help you get in contact with the right people that can help you with any questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, I want to say thank you to all our panelists for providing an overview. And quickly, I just wanted to mention, and I'll give Matt time to mention his program as well, but Navy and Air Force mentioned their kind of transition and commercial readiness programs in STP and STRATFI and TACFI. And so OSD has the OSD Transition SBIR Technologies, more widely known as OTST. That is the OSD version of our commercialization readiness program that helps transition and provides matching funds for follow-on phase 2 efforts to defense agencies and to SBIR awardees or SBIR and SBIR awardees that maybe just need a little bit of extra time post phase 2. And so Matt, I want to give you a moment to describe Catalyst for the Army.
Yep. So thanks, Tyler. So yeah, within the Army, we have a program that's similar to the Air Force's Strat-5 program, where we can have phase 2 SBIR awards up to $15 million. That comes with a couple caveats. It requires an Army transition partner that provides a portion of the funds, and also an integrator that provides a portion of the funds. But with an award up to $15 million, it really allows our small businesses to, develop a functional prototype, buy down risk, and work directly with an integrator who will help scale and integrate that capability into a larger system. So we've seen a lot of great successes with that program.
Anna, I'm going to turn to you. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Okay, so I think we're going to probably start to see quite a few of these type of questions. Somebody is asking specifically about where biotech medical innovation technologies fall under. And maybe we have a conversation about best practices on where folks can efficiently search topics that are relative to some of the discussions going on here today, and talk about some best practices there and how to figure out how to fit, aside from working with your Apex Accelerator, which we're happy to do.
Rely heavily on the Apex accelerators. Biomedical and medical research in general typically falls under the Defense Health Agency, who also does have a Ciber Sitter program, DHA, and they do everything from combat casualty care to the brain studies for TBI or PTSD, medical intervention, new materials for wound care, like as I said. So that would be the best program to look at within the DoD space. But I believe Army maybe we're receiving some of the medical back from DHA.
Not necessarily back, but yeah. So within the Army, yes, we do have a focus area on soldier health and performance, particularly with some of the wearable devices, and also some approaches for TBI and other related things. So I would certainly say that the majority of the DoD's medical research focus areas would be in the Defense Health Agency, but there is a segment that we still focus on within the Army.
Can I just add that I think that for new companies who aren't familiar with SBIR and don't understand where to start looking, I always advocate for starting at the highest level, which is SBIR.gov. SBIR.gov has a really great topic search tool, and all 11 federal agencies who participate in SBIR are required by law to post their topics at SBIR.gov. So all the topics for every release are at SBIR.gov. They're also on our agency sites. They're also on SAAMMM.gov. They're at DoD site. I mean, but it's all the same topic. And topics, of course, have a life. They're in pre-release for 21 days and they're open for 30 days, traditionally in DoD. That varies by agency. But if you look at SBIR.gov, you're seeing not only DoD's topics, but you're seeing all the agency topics. So where all of us sometimes overlap with agencies like NASA or DOE or DHS, then you'll also pick up those topics. So I think you just have to start with SBIR.gov, use that site to kind of refine your search capabilities and find the right keywords to pull up relevant topics. And then I always recommend to businesses that there's a toggle on that site to look at closed topics. You of course can't bid on a closed topic, but if you look at the closed topics, you're seeing probably 10 or 15 years worth of history of what the research that agencies have done. And it'll give you a feel for what agencies have done what research over time. And then you can market those agencies outside of their SBIR programs to find relevant opportunities.
Thank you, Brian. Excellent answers from everybody. We do have another question. How does one propose a new topic if they think there would be an interest? So maybe they're referring more to an unsolicited topic.
Yes, I'll let each component discuss how they handle unsolicited proposals, but Ciber Sitter topics are generated internal to the DoD by an organization that has a requirement. So we by law cannot have a company influence a SBIR sitter topic. Now, that's not to say that if you are at a conference or something and talk to someone who's within the DoD or government, and then all of a sudden you see, within the next year, a topic come out similar to something that you were talking about, that may happen, but you yourself cannot work with a federal civilian to generate a topic as a co-authorship.
And to be clear,
Yeah.
to add to that, to be clear, topics are statements of problems.
Right.
They're not a requirement for specific technologies. So even if you felt like you wanted to talk to somebody about influencing a topic, the topic is still going to come out as a statement of need for a problem area, not a request for a specific technology. So we're still going to get 20, 30, 40 proposals for that topic, regardless of whether you provided input to it or not.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, within the Department of Defense, we also have to run open topics. So that even allows even more, I'd say, innovation or flexibility within the solutions that are proposed. The other thing I'd offer, so in the Army, I didn't mention it, but the X-Tech program is our prize competition portfolio. It's really designed to have a zero barrier to entry between startups, small businesses, and the Army. And we run a number of prize competitions throughout the year, one of which is the X-Tech Search Program. It's going to be opening soon, and that is 100% open. And many of those prize competitions result in an SBIR award at the end.
And so at MDA, while we do not have unsolicited topics, we do also have an open BAA. And it's not part of the SBIR Sitter Program Office, but it is one that is out on SAM.gov. It is open 365 days a year, and it's a two-step process where you as a small business can actually submit your white paper. It comes into the Innovation Science and Technology Directorate. Our technical SMEs will look at it, and if it's something that we are interested in investing in, they will actually reach out to you for an official proposal. So that's another opportunity. While it's not SBIR Sitter funded, that does have program funds backing that. So that's another opportunity for small businesses to get in at MDA.
And to tag onto that, I believe all other services, laboratories, AFRL, NRL, and ARL all have open BAs that
Yeah.
use some.
Yeah, there's several of them that
Office
are
of
out
Scientific
there.
Research, which is our compliance, right?
Yep.
It's a great opportunity for businesses.
It is. And then you can always also reach out to your Office of Small Business Programs. All of us have them. Again, not SBIR Sitter directly, but it is another opportunity for mentor protege programs and other avenues to get in with each of the departments.
That was great, and that generated some follow-up questions that may have been included in what you said, Candace. So for topics with specific need, technical POCs are usually listed to answer any questions, but for open topics, there's no such technical POC. What's the best way to go about getting answers to questions to open topic proposals, which is kind of a rehash of what you were talking about a little bit?
Jump in from the Navy. So the reason there are technical POCs, a specific person aligned to a specific topic, is because that's the subject matter expert. On an open topic, we're anxious and willing and wanting to see a variety of technologies proposed to that open topic. So we can't list a specific person. So we usually put a general mailbox, and that general mailbox funnels the questions depending on what technology area it is or specific application it is, funnels it to the correct person to answer the question. So I think there's always a POC listed during pre-release. You just need to respond to that, even though it's a generic email box. It's because that email box is the front door to getting your question answered.
Yeah, ditto for the Army.
Same for MDA.
Dan, I'm assuming same for Air Force as well.
Great. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, the only thing I was probably use this time to really explain some of the things that Levine here is that we mentioned in our terms we use a lot of conventional or specific topic. That means there's a defined user. There's also a defined problem statement. In the Air Force, we also like to think about an open topic where you may not have that defined user yet. You're trying to really propose your technology or innovation to the government. One thing is that when the brand new to the SBIR process, one thing you need to think about, make sure you read the solicitation carefully. If you have questions on how to apply, there will typically be the information there about, here's information about that specific area. If you have questions about your technology or your innovation or your process that's in an open environment, as we all mentioned, there will probably be a workflow email where you need to be addressing those. Just make sure that the appliers can differentiate between the two, whether you're having an issue with understanding how your technology fits in to a mission set, or whether you're having a question on how to do the actual application in that process. Over.
It's a great point, and I want to alter that, and I've been telling businesses recently, because I've had so many people come to us wanting to understand the whole program before they participate, and I encourage them, everything you need to know about participating is in the BAA. You literally don't need to try to figure out the whole program and then participate. Actually, all of it is in the BAA, even in your shortened instruction.
Right, and to your point, Brian and Dan, the reason we are shortening BAA is because we really do need to read the whole BAA. But also, from our perspective with overall in the department, this program is to increase the talent in the defense industrial base, specifically in the small business area. And so to utilize this program as your entry into the defense industrial base, we don't have some of the requirements, for auditing and compliance for, your larger contracts, but it gives you an example and a process of that which you might have to follow if you may, remain in that defense industrial base and hopefully grow. And as you commercialize, you will start to enter the DCMA audits or things like that, where you do need to have additional resources. But the point of the program is to not only gain the technology and the R&D, but also be a partnership or mentorship where we explain to you how you can thrive and possibly graduate into a medium, large business or stay a small business that you desire, be acquired, whatever your business strategy is, and how that can fit within the defense industrial base and still post-award remain relevant and provide technology.
Can we talk a little bit about what are some small business best practices you've encountered that seem to work in terms of doing SBIR with your independent agencies?
I'll just lead off with, it's been mentioned many times today and every event I've been at, but read the BAA when it opens, read the BAA when you think you understand it, and then read the BAA right before you submit, because there have been times, and it is possible the BAA might have changed. We do make amendments due to, things such as like bad links to the forms and things like that. Obviously, we would amend the BAA, but sometimes requirements change and the topic might get canceled, or the topic might be altered due to leadership discretion, right? And so you need to fully understand what the topics are and ensure that you're following all the boxes, and DCIP will ensuring you're checking all those boxes, but read the BAA and then read it again.
And you post those amendments either at the head of the BAA or on your webpage.
Correct.
Making them right, so that they know that what's.
And it's highlighted in
Yes.
like yellow highlighter.
And if they've registered in all the proper places for DoD, they will automatically receive those amendment notifications as well, possibly.
Well, theoretically, yes. But we all.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
And government IT blocks or doesn't do what we want it to do sometimes. So I would encourage to read and read.
Understood.
And I'll let everyone else, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was gonna highlight that too, you mentioned read, but pay very close attention to the formatting requirements. MDA may allow 15 pages for technical volume, while others may allow 25 pages. So if you are to take, say there's two topics that are somewhat in similarity with differences, and you take that proposal and you try to submit it to both, it's not going to get through the one that has page limitations. That's written in the BAA instruction. So make sure that you not only understand what you're proposing to, but understand the formatting requirements for each of the agencies. Another best practice that I'm sure a lot will also echo is do not wait till the last minute to submit your proposal. Unfortunately, I had a company reach out to me several weeks ago that they missed an opportunity. They wanted to go in and submit something and I had to tell them, I'm sorry. I'm aware that you invested a lot of time, but the deadline's there, it's closed. Try again next time. And I mean I hate that for the small businesses. I hate that for us because we may have lost out on a fantastic technology, an advantage, but pay very close attention to that. I don't know about you guys, but my computer likes to fail the last minute when I have a deadline. So definitely keep that in mind when you're trying to get those out.
We touched on it earlier, but I think it's important for industry to look at the BAA right at pre-release and take advantage of that 3 weeks that DoD offers during pre-release to engage with the topic author. And that's not your opportunity to give them a marketing pitch, but it is your opportunity to ask clarifying questions, and better understand the dual use potential, the potential transition paths, understanding the technical requirements, make the connection with the topic author when you can during that time. And then I think it's never too early to start thinking about transition. Right from when you're writing your phase 1 proposal, there's a commercialization section, and we want you to understand where the potential transition paths are. So it's never too early to start talking transition and understanding the path forward.
I'd say, just to kind of go back, another successful thing for small businesses, and this is post-award. We're kind of talking more about the pre-award phase, but some of the best practices that I've witnessed with our small businesses is keeping very close comms with your TPOC, your technical person who is assigned to monitor that contract. And if they're not providing you assistance and the guidance that you feel we should be, please reach out to the program managers of the Supersedure Program Office. We are there to help. If it's a work issue or something else that's going on, we'll work with those program offices to reassign the technical monitor, whatever it may need to be, but definitely work very closely with them. They're the folks that understand the requirements. They're the ones in the program offices, boots on the ground. And that's just imperative, because if you you start losing that communication with them and you're not meeting those deadlines and deliverables, that could unfortunately harm you as you transition through the program.
Yeah, I would say that most of the TPOCs across DoD are the champions
Yes, they are.
of the work that's being done. So if you don't have a relationship with the champion, then you're likely not going to be as successful. So from day one, start the relationship and build it.
And I'll just mention something that was in the Reauthorization Act of 2022 that we're now required to do is due diligence assessments on all proposals submitted to this Supersedure program. There is a memo signed out by the Deputy Secretary of Defense on Supersedure due diligence implementation across the department. So it's publicly releasable if you want to view that. I would just type in Supersedure due diligence memo, and it'll usually release links to a press release for Ms. Hicks, which has the memo attached. But with that being said, I mentioned in my briefing that we automated the foreign disclosure form, and that is part of the new requirement of the due diligence process. And so what we're now talking about is foreign ownership, control, and influence, as well as relationships that either companies or individual employees that may be working on the research may have with adversarial countries or foreign countries of concern. And, this wasn't 5 years ago, this wasn't not necessarily not relevant, but wasn't as looked at as it is now. And so there's a formal process now in which there is a risk matrix attached to that memo that will kind of elaborate on the 5 main risk factors of foreign control, foreign ownership, foreign affiliations, associations, foreign patents, and funding. And so we do look at that. And so when you fill out that form, be as truthful and as you can be to your best recollection, because we do have our own vetting process to validate the information on those forms. And, we do go back for clarification or more information possibly if things don't necessarily match up. And, the last thing we want is for a small business to be deemed ineligible because they, misremembered something or or intentionally hid a foreign ownership because you think it's something that we may flag, but the flag itself of not disclosing it is more egregious than the actual funding itself.
So we do have another question. And I'd be happy to answer it, but I think they should hear it from you. They want to know about the section where we're always talking about commercialization in the BAA. And they want to know, what are you really looking for? And can you give an example? So it's pretty straightforward, right? And I'm just going to preface this before I turn it over, is what they're not looking for is serial entrepreneurs that are only doing phase ones, right? We want product, we want it to go to market, and you want dual use. And with that, I'll throw it over to you folks in the room.
So I'll just say commercialization is a widely used term, and I think sometimes our definition of commercialization may be different from other people's definition of commercialization. And so for me, the commercialization aspect is it's like your graduation. It's you've achieved past your prototype, you're in market, you have a customer that is actually funding your project. And with DoD, we've talked about dual use, but there are some DoD topics, right, and DoD research areas that are pretty much your end user is going to be the DoD. Like there really may not be a private or industry sector that is looking at the next hypersonic missile, right? So for that being said, we do have examples, and the one that OSD likes to tout is the iRoomba. So the Roomba vacuum, iRobot vacuum started out as a SBIR, and so they commercialized their sensing technology into probably 50% of homes in America now. And
iRoomba
also,
saved my marriage. Yeah.
so that's one we like to tout, and I'll let the components talk about commercialization and success in their individual programs as well.
So, oh, go ahead.
You're good, go ahead.
So, the Navy offers a phase 1 and phase 2 proposal template on our website, navysbir.com, under forms. And in that template, we actually tell you what we want in each section of the proposal. So I can't say that I can quote exactly what it says in the commercialization section, but there's a hefty paragraph in there of what we're looking for. And I would argue that likely what we're saying in that paragraph is applicable to all of DoD. But generically speaking, we're looking for your understanding of where this is going to transition. So that's why it's important for you to do your due diligence in the pre-release period and actually talk to the technical author of the topic to understand what their vision for transition is compared to your vision. And then also understanding, because most of us are also focused on dual use, what are the dual use applications and the potential of that? And all those things should be discussed in the commercialization section.
Yeah, I'll just kind of caveat what Brian was saying. We're really looking that you've done your homework. You're not just coming to us with a technology that may not fit. It's more so that you know your market, you know a little bit about the organization that you're proposing to and how your technology can fit into that market. It's not saying, yes, I already defined this is going to go into all the shelves of Walmart and Targets across the United States, but it's more so of that understanding of what the end users are looking to apply your technology to do and to solve. And that's as simple as going out to our websites, mda.mil, Navy, Army, Air Force. All of us have websites that you can go out and learn a little bit more about the organization, what our mission sets are, what our key technology areas are, and just show that you've looked at those things and that you are knowledgeable that your technology can meet that need. And as you're progressing phase 1, phase 2, we expect that commercialization strategy to be even stronger. Now you're developing your prototypes, you're testing it in the environments. At that point in that phase 2, sequential phase 2, that this is where it can go and this is our path. So that's really kind of what I know I could say for MDA we're looking for, is that you've done your due diligence, as Brian said, and your homework, and you market researched it on your own. before bringing it to us and us assisting you to get it there.
The goal of the program is not for you to receive SBIR funding for the rest of your company's lifespan, right? It is to graduate and commercialize. So from that aspect, we do expect some sort of idea and plan for you to be able to exit the SBIR program and be successful and not, end your company. But I do want to also introduce Dr. Ruby Crenshaw Lawrence, who is the Chief of Office of Small Business Programs and Industry Engagements at DCSA, the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. She has just arrived, and I just wanted to give her a minute to introduce herself and add any comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am, again, Dr. Ruby Crenshaw Lawrence, and I'm the Chief of the Office of Small Business Programs and Industry Engagements. My office is charged with the mission of ensuring maximum participation of small businesses across the enterprise. I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Shipley for a number of years, and SBIR is very near and dear to my heart for a number of reasons. One, because it allows small businesses an opportunity to make sure that they are contributing to the industrial base, right? And we need to make sure in that contribution, as just mentioned, that this program is not for forever and ever, amen. This program is really a stepping stone to get you to exactly where it is that you need to be. I've also heard in my arrival, a few of my colleagues have made mention of knowing your mission and knowing our mission, what we buy, what are some of our capability gaps, what are some of our needs? Has there been a use case for any of the technology or capability that you are looking to introduce to, said a service and or for the state agency? I can't foot stomp that enough. That's something that I oftentimes tell small businesses, at breadth and depth, know your audience. And so I am very, very part of this conversation. I'm very happy to be walking and talking alongside some great people here who serve as small business under the SBIR program.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's excellent. So we've got 1 minute before it's a wrap. And is there anything you'd like to add, Tyler and crew? It's a great group. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Crenshaw Lawrence. Great to have you.
Chad, that there's a question on where to find that template. So Brian, I know the template you were discussing. So where can they find that Navy template?
So NavySBIR.com.
And the
on the
link I
top-
put in right above that question.
Oh,
It's
okay.
right in the
Perfect.
chat. So they should go, yeah.
Thank you.
DoD also has a template.
Yeah, on the DSIP website, we have templates as well and DSIP. So if you Google search DSIP DoD, that'll be the first thing. The Defense SBIR Innovation Portal will be the first thing that should come up. That we have templates. We also have some frequently asked questions and some learning/training modules there as well to kind of give a broad overview of the SBIR program at large, and then links to, the individual components as well. But really with the last, 30 seconds, I'd just like to thank everyone for participation, and Dan, thank you for dialing in from your location, and, we really appreciate these events and being able to provide our story and our program to the small business community.
Wonderful. Thank you all very, very much. Very informative. And please know that everybody will receive copies of the charts as well as the contact information. The link that I just put in there is the link to DSIP. So please do follow that. And any follow-up questions that we receive, we'll certainly share it with the brain trust that we have here. And I mean that. This is a great group of folks, very smart. It's a pleasure to work with many of you numerous times over the course of several years. So we greatly appreciate it on behalf of the Apex Accelerators from New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So thanks for joining us, and everyone have a great day. Appreciate you.